This is Shannon Kringen, Goddess KRING in Seattle. I have the cloud filter on my lens. Let's remove their filter. Let's be cloudy. Cloudy? Now we're clear. Now we're cloudy. I feel like there's a veil of clouds psychologically over certain people in the USA where I live. I live in the United States of America, and I was born here in 1968 in San Diego, California. And there's a lot of things that I wish that I could say, but I honestly don't feel comfortable saying them. And I don't want to upset other people. And I also don't want to get myself in any kind of CANCEL. I wrote a song called Cancel Culture Vulture, Virtue Signal Soldiers. So as a way of expressing my frustration about the way people are being indoctrinated into thinking that they must conform to a certain way of seeing things in a very rigid way. And things are very much black and white in terms of, there's another poem I wrote called, we have a new song coming out called Polarization Landscape, or actually it's called, I keep changing the name, Polarized Landscape. I'm finding it really psychologically stressful and exhausting and weighing me down in the current atmosphere here in the United States in terms of our political system and our current situation with the election coming up towards the end of this year of 2024 and heading into 2025. And sometimes I think people take it too seriously on who is the person that is hired to stand in front of cameras and read from teleprompters, because we're supposed to believe that this person has a lot of power and pulls the strings. But really, I think that there's a lot of things behind the scenes that are really pulling the strings, and large corporations and money and finances and all kinds of business things going on behind the scenes that we're not even aware of. I also wrote a poem about that. I don't really feel comfortable and, quite frankly, psychologically safe in saying what I really think is happening. But I really think that we kind of just have one agenda that's going on, but we, the people, are supposed to think that there's two choices and we're supposed to be frustrated. Well, I don't know what we're supposed to be, but I kind of feel like when I am bombarded with all of the ads for the political thing happening here in the USA, I feel like they're trying to, when I say they, I mean media advertisers who are trying to get us to vote a certain way or not vote a certain way, get us to be psychologically and emotionally angry and stressed out about certain issues. People argue about who's the hero and who's the villain. People argue about what's right, what's wrong, what's ethical, what's not ethical, what's democratic, what's not democratic. The way it works is not democratic. Like, it's all about raising money and fundraisers. It's all about selling an idea to the public. It's about getting people riled up and keeping the ratings high on the stations. That's what I think. I got rid of my television in 2007 in terms of cable TV. I do watch movies and documentaries, and I try to avoid as many commercials as possible by muting. I can mute the commercials out. I don't want to listen to most commercials and whatever they're trying to sell me. I just wanted to make a short video. I don't want to ramble on too long. I just am feeling really frustrated and psychologically challenged about speaking my mind, but then I think, well, I'm just one individual. I think of people as individuals and I try not to put them into little boxes. And the irony is that these days we are told that we're not supposed to stereotype each other. And I agree. We need to stop being prejudiced and stereotyping of other people. But on the one hand, it seems like we're even more, like we're stereotyping each other even more than we used to, and not less, but more than we used to. Maybe certain people are finally being allowed to be who they are and not be stereotyped, but then other people are being continuously stereotyped. So, and how do I say what I really feel without getting myself, you know, told that I'm going against the lines of guide? I'm trying to not say it in a cliche way. Like, what box do I fit in? Like, when I meet another human being, I don't think of them as whatever category they fit in. I think of them as a unique individual human. So the category that humans fit into for me is unique individual human who has different traits, who has different ethnicities, different um, ways in which they identify themselves. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like so, and then it's blurring together with computers and artificial intelligence. You know, I wrote the song Cancel Culture Vulture, Virtue Signal Soldiers, partly about that, and Polarized Landscape is coming out soon. That's the new song. The fact that we only have two choices. See, on one hand, I feel like it's absurd that we only have two choices in the USA election coming up, the federal presidential election. We only have two choices, and they make it sound, the media makes it sound like the ad campaigns, the PR, you know, because the NEWS is an ad campaign, as far as I can tell, more than it's actually just the facts, ma'am. Because if you leave certain things out, then it can be taken out of context. I mean, I've been interviewed by the media about a topic that was controversial, and I said something, and then they cut my sentence in half. And so they made it look like that the opinion that I had about this controversial topic involving the natural human form, they made it sound like I had the opposite opinion of what I actually had. So when I hear sound bites from certain famous people that are on national television, I know that it can be taken out of context. And so when it's positive or negative, when somebody's considered a hero or a villain, I don't take it that seriously. It's kind of like if you run into a famous person at a restaurant and they're in a bad mood, and then you stereotype them as being a jerk just because they were in a bad mood when you saw them. Plus, they're a famous person that just wants to enjoy their dinner. So why would they be happy when people are constantly interrupting them when they're trying to just have dinner and just act like a regular person? So things are taken out of context and there's gossip. And so why am I even wasting my time or using my time and energy to make this video? The point of this video is that you know how psychologically challenging it is if you tune in to the wavelength of current mainstream stories in the USA about the political system that we have here. And the absurdities, like on one hand, I'm frustrated that we only have two choices and they make it sound like that's the way it has to be, but that's not true at all. That's a lie. We could have a different system. The people that raise the most money and that are sponsored by the largest corporations are the ones that get the platform to speak on. And there's other viable people who are not really given much of a spotlight. And in fact, they are told that they are not welcome and not allowed to join into the group of people discussing these issues. So it's absurd to think that it's at all democratic and that it's at all ethical. It's not ethical or democratic. So the irony is that they're telling us that they want to protect certain freedom in the United States, and yet it seems like the opposite is happening. So it's kind of like the 1984 Brave New World, war is peace, peace is war, freedom is slavery, and slavery is freedom. It's kind of like the opposite. Everything is flipped on its head. Everything is cattywampus, backwards. I like to think I'm dyslexic. Maybe I'm dyslexia. Um, Bada boo, bada bing, stinging rings the kring, catch the wind song spiral drive, which is a line from one of my poems, which kind of means stay in touch with wisdom. So I'm getting really bogged down. I don't know why. I just feel like I need somebody to talk to. But what I'm doing is I'm pet sitting and I'm taking care of some cats, and my schedule is complicated in terms of me in my own apartment and me in the pet sit that I'm doing, and making sure I take good care of these animals that I'm taking care of for people, and making sure I also take care of myself. So I'm feeling very crippled in ripples of fear. Steer clear of the mirror, dear. Crippled in ripples of fear. Stay clear of the mirror, dear. Self-abandonment got me stranded again, polluted and uprooted. So we are being trained and indoctrinated to regurgitate sound bites. That's what it seems to me. And I feel like maybe we only have one party in this country, which is the money party, the powerful, wealthy, corporate energy, power. It's like we're supposed to think that one side is good and one side is bad, and that different people flip the opinion about which side is the good side, and I personally don't like either mainstream party. I don't trust the authority of either one of those. And my political opinions are kind of a checkerboard of many different multifaceted opinions. And I don't really feel comfortable telling you, the public, my personal opinions about every little topic, other than I believe in the freedom of choice. I believe in the freedom of individual humans to choose what they think. And I don't believe in humans trying to guilt trip or shame or argue their way into coercing somebody into buying into a certain agenda, and that you have to pick one side or the other. There are certain conflicts in other countries of the world. And when you speak out and you speak for the human rights of one side, then people go, oh, are you against the other side? It's like you have to pick one side or the other. Like you have to agree with people going to war with each other. And I don't agree with war. And yet you can't, if you say that, people think, well, you have to pick a side. You have to pick a side. And it's like, well, I don't pick either one of the, if there's only A or B, I don't pick A or B. I pick beyond the duality of A and B. There's got to be at least 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 other choices. So if I talk about it, I contradict it. So I'm kind of going beyond the duality of current times. So I was speaking years ago about wanting human rights for a certain group, and then these people got mad and said, "Oh, that means you're against the other group." And I said, "No, I didn't say that. I said I'm for humans having food, water, shelter, basic human rights on all sides, not just the two sides that there's two main sides that people argue about when it comes to politics or war in different countries. You could say it's the rich people versus the poor people. And it's like, well, what about the middle class? And what about the full spectrum of humans? What about all the different kinds of people? There's more than just two kinds of people. There's more than just two kinds of political ideas. There's more than just, there's a whole spectrum of ideas and of ways of being human. So I don't really feel like there's a space for me to share what I actually think, and I'm being intentionally vague. I guess I'm kind of wimping out. I'm not going to like boldly say what I really think, but What I really think is that there's a lot of BS happening and that there's a lot of people that are guilt tripping and shaming each other into thinking a certain way and thinking that if you're this kind of person that you're good and if you're this kind of person you're bad, instead of seeing any kind of nuance or gray zone or gray area. People think there really isn't a gray area, that it's really either just extremely dark or extremely light. It's extremely right or it's extremely wrong. And I would say that I don't think that anything that's too extreme probably isn't part of the truth. Part of the truth is probably more of a full spectrum, whole ball of wax. So what I would like to support in the world is people having freedom of thought, freedom of choice, freedom of questioning the authority of anyone, questioning whether it's somebody on national television or it's your next door neighbor. You know, if somebody is trying to boss you around and tell you how you're supposed to think, I don't buy into that. That's including me when I am bossing myself around in a harsh way. It's not helpful. So there needs to be an openness, in my opinion, and there needs to be, well, I would like to actually, the system isn't fair and there's all kinds of injustice happening and lack of ethics happening in the world. And people are being curated and basically censored and edited from saying certain things. And yet certain things are allowed and certain things are not allowed. And just the rules that humans have is pretty absurd right now. And I don't know if I can get my point across in the way that I want, but I'm feeling crippled in ripples of fear, crippled in ripples of fear. It's like, I'm just going to write more poems about it. I just want to speak in metaphor, I suppose. Tori Amos has a song called Pancake, and I think it's a very brave metaphor for something that happened in 2001, Pancake. But it's like, I'm not sure who's fooling who here as I'm watching our decay are some of the lines to the Tori Amos song called Pancake. And Tom Petty has a song called Shadow People where he goes, well, I ain't on the left and I ain't on the right. I ain't even sure I got a dog in this fight. It's a good song by Tom Petty. So Tom Petty and Tori Amos are two of my favorite songwriters. And I would just like to go beyond the duality of the current time. And there's people that I can talk to honestly in my real personal life. I can share my honest opinion with a few friends of mine without them arguing with me. Some of my close friends agree with my opinions, and some of my close friends don't necessarily agree with everything that I think, but they at least can agree to disagree and have respect for my point of view that's different than theirs. But then I have other friends where if I say what I really think about politics or even what kind of food I like to eat, arguments happen. So I'm going to try to avoid arguing with people. It's not really helpful. I have my own autonomy as an adult. I just feel frustrated and a little bit trapped in the duality of the way humans are behaving towards each other. And let's just call a spade a spade. I mean, this is not democratic. The way this thing is happening is not democratic. You know, to think we only have two choices. On one hand, I think we need at least four choices. There's other countries that have at least four political parties or five or six political parties that are hopefully actually different from each other. But not only do I think that it's absurd to only have two choices in the USA, I think that it's also perhaps there's really only one choice right now, and perhaps they're distracting us. There's a distraction happening, and it's kind of a smoke and mirrors thing where people are arguing about the A and the B when really there's another whole thing happening behind the scenes, hidden in plain sight. There's a line in one of my songs where I go, jacked up hype hidden in plain sight. So they're hyping, like they're promoting the A and the B and the drama and the conflict and the duality of the A and the B. And yet we're not seeing what's behind that and how it's really lots of money and power and people arguing about who the puppet is going to be that reads the teleprompter. Although maybe there are some people that don't want to read the teleprompter and they want to rebel against that. But it's like that's a whole nother ball of wax right there. Pros and cons to all of the things I'm saying. But I think there's something beyond this duality. So not only, if I was king of the world or queen of the world, I would say we should have more choices. We should have actual democratic vote. But really, when there's things running things that are not ethical, we can't have that. We can't have, it's not going to be, there are certain candidates that I agree with some of the things that Marianne Williamson has said, and I agree with some of the things that Kennedy has said, and I agree with some of the things that Cornel West has said, but I don't agree with everything that they've said. And I certainly don't agree. I don't disagree or agree with the two main candidates right now in every way or any way. Like there's no politician I've ever listened to where I agree with every single thing they said, no matter what. It's like there's always something. And then I think, well, wait, what really matters is the person on stage that talks to the cameras, lights, camera, action, and reads into the teleprompter, telling the public, selling the public ideas. I mean, I think of them as actors. I think of these people as politicians or actors, even if they're genuinely wanting to change the world for the better. Their job is to appeal to the public. Their job is to create a personality, almost like an actor, and appeal to the public in some way and sell an idea and convince the public certain ways. I mean, the best politicians know how to be diplomatic to other countries, diplomatic to the public, diplomacy, compromise. So how do I talk about this in a way that makes sense? I just feel frustrated. Like I want to get beyond the duality. And so what I need to be doing right now is walking in the forest. I'm going to go walk in the forest. I just wanted to share some of my thoughts about how frustrating it and psychologically upsetting it is. I feel like there's a psychological WARFARE happening. It's like psychological WARFARE. Maybe I should write a poem about that and turn it into a song, just to express in a constructive way the absurdity of what humans are doing to each other, in my opinion, and how we could be doing different things, but apparently we're not. So apparently we like to build upon the paradigm of duality and the paradigm of conflict of it's only A versus B. We're not allowed to have a C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Now I know my ABCs. Next time, won't you sing with Goddess KRING beyond the duality into the neutrality? A friend of mine actually lives in India in an ashram 6 months out of the year, and I'm finding it fascinating. And she's sending me videos and photos of monkeys and telling me about the tigers, literal tigers that live in the jungle or the forest in India where she lives. And at dawn and dusk, the tigers hunt, so she has to be careful not to walk in certain areas during dawn and dusk, maybe. And there's monkeys, and it's fascinating. And I think about India. I've never been there, but I'm attracted to the colors and the complexity of the culture of India and the music and the art and the food and the namaste of it all and the spiritual traditions and the sadness of the extreme poverty mixed in with the sacred beautifulness of some of the religious spiritual wisdom mixed with just the overall culture and how it's very different than United States where I've lived my whole life. Although I have traveled a lot, I've been to Australia and Mexico and a bunch of different European countries. And I enjoy traveling and seeing the United States from a different perspective. When you go to a different country, you see whatever country you're from in a different way and hear different languages being spoken and try different kinds of food and music and culture and tradition. And there's different ways of doing things. So I believe in questioning everything. And it's sad that some people these days think if you question authority that you're not a good person. But it used to be that the people we admired were the ones that would stand up to power and question authority. And I do believe in questioning authority. And I can see why people are being worn down and they're psychologically exhausted to the point where they just want to rest and they want to trust some authority. They want to think they can trust some authority beyond themselves. Perhaps we really can't. I mean, I personally don't really feel a lot of faith or trust in very much authority happening in the world right now. It's very uncomfortable actually to feel like it's all such a it's muddy waters of chaos, basically. Muddy waters of chaos. I should write that down. Okay, so thanks for listening. This is Goddess KRING. Okay, take the cloud. There. No more cloud. Woo, the cloud is lifted. Enjoy your day, everyone. Follow your heart and soul. Trust yourself. Do whatever you think makes sense for you. Bye for now. This is Shannon Kringen, Goddess KRING, and I have the movie project, the poetry project, the art car project, all different creative projects. Just look for Shannon Kringen, Goddess KRING, and find my art, music, photography, poetry, painting, all that jazz. Bye for now. I can't find the stop. There it is. End meeting.